Now, before the break, we talked about the significance of the year 1870 in America's long quest for police reform. Since the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police in May of 2020, Congress has repeatedly tried to pass a police reform bill called the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. The bill passed the House twice, but has never reached the Senate. And a key reason negotiations broke down was the ongoing disagreements about a proposal to end qualified immunity. Now, Democrats in Congress plan to reintroduce the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act yet again. Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman of New Jersey, Bonnie Watzman-Coleman, member of the Appropriations Committee and the Congressional Black Caucus. She distributed the 1870s pins that you may have seen on the lapels of many members of Congress at the State of the Union address on Tuesday. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. We went through the significance of the 1870 date. I am sort of curious, what inspired you in the wind up to this year's State of the Union address to use that symbol and distribute those pins?
Well, we had the latest killing of Tyre, and it was a further reminder of how we continue to go through these experiences, have a moment of silence, have a moment of mourning, Congress recognizing that something needs to be done, but then not doing what it needs to do. And quite frankly, I'm tired of mourning. I needed to do something to remind people of the moment that we were in. And out of a conversation with my staff, someone researched the situation with Mr. Truman back in 1870, and then we talked about the fact that in just 2022, there are 1,176 people that we know were killed at the hands of police. And that's not all of them because there's no central database. So I wanted to do something to remind people. I wanted to sort of prompt a conversation. I wanted to prompt a question. And I figured by putting just 1870 on a button and wearing it at the State of the Union, it would prompt people to say, hey, what is that? And I could start by telling them about Henry Truman, and then we could talk about the need to finish our job with regard to police reform.
Well, it certainly prompted a conversation and certainly educated a lot of people, myself included. The question is the second component of what you talked about. Will it prompt legislative action? And I don't mean to be a cynic, although it's in my nature, but it does strike me that there is a very strong possibility that you and everyone else in Congress and people who yearn for police reform will end up in the same spot that we've been in time and time again, which is a call for legislative action, but no bill signed into law. What's different about this time?
Well, it is. I think what's different is that we just had a recent experience with it happening again. We had the State of the Union speech where the president raised the issue as a problem for all of us that needed to be fixed. He introduced the Nichols family, the faith that this wonderful mother has, that something good comes out of this tragedy. I don't know that we get it through, but let me just tell you, it is not something that we're going to give up on. It takes a long time sometimes for justice to be realized. And we recognize in the Black Caucus and among many members of Congress that without consequences and accountability in police enforcement reform initiatives, we're not going to have that justice. We as Black mothers are going to worry about our children, Black men, even Black women, standing on a corner, walking down the street, being in their neighborhoods, being in a park, riding in a car, standing at a stoplight. And so this is something that we have to continue to fight for. This is something that we have to continue to raise with those who have not been willing to engage with the important issue of police reform, and particularly the issue of qualified immunity. Because without consequences and accountability, you're not going to get change.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to say, use the word accountability, right? Police reform has two components. One is on the front end. Can you put resources into departments? Can you reorient how they look at the issue of crime, how they treat suspects? Can you put cameras on officers, so on and so forth? But that also has the other end, which is accountability. What happens if something bad happens, like in the case of George Floyd? Can you provide accountability in the legal sense of the word? Could you support a bill, a police reform bill, I put that in quote marks, that did not have some reforms to qualified immunity?
I don't want to say yes or no, because I will take a forward movement, but I know that the job is not done unless there are consequences. And those consequences have to be felt individually and collectively by the entity that employs the law enforcement officer abusing his power and by the law enforcement officer. We also need to invest in training and retraining and helping our police to understand what it means to protect and serve individuals that may or may not look like them, but have the same humanity, the same rights, and the same expectations of being protected and served by our law enforcement. So, Sam, I'm not going to ever say a never, never, ever, never. I will continue to move forward in police accountability. I think it's important that we have a national database. I think it's important that those who violate the rights and safety and security of people that they've been called to protect, that they don't need to be employed. They don't need to be able to go from one law enforcement agency to another. I think that we need to invest more in how we train our new police officers and how we recruit them and how we vet them. So there's a lot that needs to be done to ensure that we have a fairer situation, a greater expectation of safety and security in the Black community in particular.
That is absolutely true. It is an incredibly complex, delicate issue. And we want to thank you for coming here to try to unpack it in this short period of time. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, Democrat of New Jersey, really appreciate your time.